On December 1st, 2025, Netflix's legal department received a 4-page cease-and-desist letter demanding they halt the release of what would become the streaming platform's second most watched title of the week. The letter alleged stolen footage, corporate retaliation, and a decades-long vendetta. Less than 24 hours later, Netflix released the documentary anyway. Within 6 days, 21.8 million people had watched it. This is the story of how a feud that began with a 2006 diss track culminated in one of the most controversial documentaries in streaming history, and the legal battle that's still unfolding. If stories about power, rivalry, and accountability in the music industry interest you, subscribe for more in-depth investigations. Drop a comment about what you think happens when longtime rivals finally get a platform to tell their side of the story. To understand what happened in December 2025, you have to go back nearly 20 years to when two of hip-hop's most powerful figures first crossed paths, and then crossed swords. Sean Combs built Bad Boy Entertainment into one of the most influential record labels in hip-hop history. He launched the careers of the notorious B.I.G., Mary J. Blige, Jodeci, and Danity Kane. He transformed himself from producer to performer to mogul, accumulating wealth, influence, and fame that made him one of the most recognizable figures in American entertainment. Curtis Jackson, known to the world as 50 Cent, emerged from the streets of Queens to become one of the best-selling rappers of the 2000s. His debut album, Get Rich or Die Tryin', sold over 12 million copies worldwide. But 50 Cent was known for more than his music. He was known for his feuds. The two men had worked together professionally in the early 2000s. In 2003, Combs presented 50 Cent with the Best Rap Video Award at the MTV Video Music Awards. But according to 50 Cent, his discomfort with Combs began around this time. In a 2024 interview with The Hollywood Reporter, 50 Cent recalled a conversation that changed his perception of Combs. He asked to take me shopping. I thought that was the weirdest shit in the world, because that might be something that a man says to a woman. And I'm just like, no, I'm not fucking with this weird energy or weird shit coming off the way he was just moving. From that, I wasn't comfortable around him. He added, I've been very vocal about not going to puffy parties and doing shit like that. I've been staying out of that shit for years. It's just an uncomfortable energy connected to it. In September 2006, 50 Cent released a diss track called The Bomb that would define the next 2 decades of his relationship with Sean Combs. The song featured sounds of gunfire and made an explosive accusation that Combs knew who was responsible for the 1997 murder of the notorious B.I.G., his protégé and close friend Christopher Wallace. The lyrics were direct. Who shot Biggie Smalls? We don't get 'em. They gonna kill us all. Man, Puffy know who hit that N.A. Combs has consistently denied any knowledge of or involvement in Biggie's murder or the 1996 murder of Tupac Shakur. In a 2016 interview with The Breakfast Club, he called such allegations nonsense. No one has ever been charged in either case. Despite the diss track, the two sometimes still crossed paths professionally. In 2007, they performed together at Screamfest '07 at Madison Square Garden alongside Jay-Z. But the underlying tension never dissipated. As both men expanded their empires beyond music, a new battleground emerged, the liquor industry. Combs became the face of Diageo's Ciroc vodka in 2007, a partnership that would last until January 2024. In 2016, 50 Cent partnered with rival brand Effin' Vodka. The rivalry that had begun with diss tracks evolved into business competition and social media warfare. 50 Cent regularly mocked Combs' product quality. "Puffs is not even vodka. It's grapes," he claimed during a 2018 interview on the Drink Champs podcast. In 2018, Combs publicly downplayed the feud during an appearance on The Breakfast Club. "I don't have no beef with Fifth. He loves me," Combs said. "Y'all can't see that he loves me? You really think that's hate? You know he loves me. Me and him could be friends, but he doesn't want to be my friend." Addressing the shopping incident, Combs responded simply, "Yeah, I thought he needed some clothes. I'm a nice guy." When Kim Porter, Combs' longtime partner and mother of 3 of his children, died in November 2018, 50 Cent publicly offered condolences, a moment that suggested some degree of respect could still exist between them. But it would prove to be a brief pause in hostilities. On November 16, 2023, singer Cassandra "Cassie" Ventura filed a lawsuit against Sean Combs in federal court. The lawsuit accused him of rape, sexual assault, and physical abuse over the course of their decade-long relationship. Combs denied the allegations. The lawsuit was settled the following day. But the settlement did not end the matter. More accusers came forward, more lawsuits were filed. By the end of 2024, civil suits against Combs would number over 70, according to reports. 50 Cent wasted no time. He joked publicly about Combs parting ways with his partnerships, writing on X, formerly Twitter, that he would be willing to take his place. And he announced something else. He was making a documentary. In December 2023, 50 Cent announced he was developing a project about Combs for Netflix. The working title was Diddy Do It, a play on Combs' name and the phrase, "Did he do it?" On March 25, 2024, Homeland Security investigations executed search warrants at 2 of Sean Combs' properties, his homes in Los Angeles and Miami. The raids were connected to a federal sex trafficking investigation. 50 Cent posted on X within hours. "Now it's not Diddy Do It, it's Diddy Done. They don't come like that unless they got a case." In May 2024, CNN released surveillance video from 2016 showing Combs physically assaulting Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway, kicking, punching, and dragging her. The footage matched descriptions from Ventura's lawsuit. 50 Cent told The Hollywood Reporter, "First he denied that it even happened and then the tape comes out. So that means everything that N.I. says is a lie." When someone watches that, if they have a daughter and they can imagine her being under those circumstances, that shit is crazy. Like, they let him get away with it. On September 16, 2024, federal agents arrested Sean Combs at a hotel in Manhattan. He was indicted in the Southern District of New York on charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation for purposes of prostitution. Combs pleaded not guilty to all charges. He was denied bail and remained in federal custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. But in the 6 days before his arrest, Combs had been filming himself. According to his spokesperson, Judah Engelmeyer, Combs had been making his own documentary since he was 19 years old. A videographer was capturing footage of Combs in his hotel room as he strategized with his legal team, responded to developments in his case, and grappled with the mounting accusations against him. That footage would become the most controversial element of what was to come. The trial of Sean Combs began on May 5th, 2025, in the Federal District Court in Lower Manhattan. Over 6 weeks, the prosecution presented 34 witnesses. The defense presented none, resting its case in under 30 minutes. Cassie Ventura testified for 4 days during the first week, detailing years of alleged abuse, forced sexual encounters, and physical violence. Another woman, identified only as Jane to protect her privacy, also testified about her relationship with Combs. On July 2nd, 2025, after 3 days of deliberation, the jury delivered a split verdict. They found Combs not guilty of racketeering conspiracy. They found him not guilty of sex trafficking. But they found him guilty on 2 counts of transportation for the purposes of prostitution under the Mann Act, a 1910 statute. Combs mouthed, "Thank you," to each juror, and turned to his family to say, "I'm coming home, baby." He was wrong. The judge denied his request for bail pending sentencing. At his sentencing hearing, Sean Combs addressed the court. His statement was a stark contrast to the confident mogul the world had known for decades. "Domestic violence will always be a heavy burden that I will have to forever carry," Combs said. "My actions were disgusting, shameful, and sick. I was sick from the drugs. I was out of control. I needed help, and I didn't get the help. And I cannot make no excuse," he continued. "I am just a human being. I was trying my best. I got lost in my excess and lost in my ego. Because of my decision, I lost my freedom and the opportunity to raise my children and be there for my mother." Federal prosecutors had sought at least 11 years in prison. The defense requested 14 months, essentially time served since his September 2024 arrest. Judge Arun Subramanian sentenced Combs to 50 months, just over 4 years, in federal prison, plus a $500,000 fine and 5 years of supervised release. The judge described Cassie Ventura and Jane as brave survivors who gave others a voice. "You have a chance to show your children what true change and accountability look like," the judge told Combs. "I am counting on you to make the most of your second chance." Combs was transferred to the low-security federal prison at Fort Dix in New Jersey. His lawyers announced plans to appeal. 2 months after Combs' sentencing, 50 Cent's documentary was ready. It had evolved from the working title "Diddy Do It" to its final name, Sean Combs: The Reckoning. Emmy award-winning director Alexandria Stapleton had spent over a year crafting the 4-part series. The documentary promised explosive content. Interviews with Bad Boy Entertainment co-founder Kirk Burroughs, former assistant Capricorn Clark, Bad Boy artists Aubrey O'Day, Kalena Harper and Mark Curry. It included journal entries from Burroughs alleging financial improprieties. It featured never-before-heard audio from Dwayne Keefe D. Davis regarding the murders of Tupac and Biggie. And it included interviews with jurors from Combs' federal trial. But the most controversial footage was something else entirely. Intimate video of Combs in his hotel room in the 6 days before his arrest, filmed with his knowledge, showing him strategizing with his legal team. In the footage, Combs is heard telling his attorney, "Things are happening and it's like, I want to fight for my life. I want to fight for justice, for not guilty. I want to have a life to be able to live. It's really going to be hard for me to take more hits than I've taken and, God forbid, get in front of a jury and have a chance." "You didn't do anything wrong," his attorney Mark Agnifilo advises. "You've handled this with complete honor." "I don't think it's working," Combs responds. "We're losing." He is also heard saying, "We need to find someone who will work with us, who has worked in the dirtiest of dirty businesses." On December 1st, 2025, the day before the documentary's scheduled release, Netflix's chief legal officer David Hyman received a 4-page cease-and-desist letter from Combs' attorneys. The letter was copied to Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos and content chief Bella Bajaria. The letter made several claims. First, it alleged that the pre-arrest footage had been stolen and was never authorized for release. Second, it claimed the documentary was corporate retaliation against Combs for rejecting a Netflix-controlled documentary proposal in 2023. Third, it alleged that Netflix had chosen 50 Cent as producer, specifically because of his personal vendetta against Combs. In or about 2023, CEO Ted Sarandos proposed that Netflix produce a documentary about Mr. Combs, the letter stated. However, Mr. Combs rejected the proposal when Mr. Sarandos insisted he give up creative control. Thus, the choice of Mr. Jackson to produce the program was Netflix's vindictive response to that rejection. The letter concluded with a threat. "As you are undoubtedly aware, Mr. Combs has not hesitated to take legal action against media entities and others who violate his rights, and he will not hesitate to do so against Netflix." Combs' spokesperson, Judah Engelmeyer, called the documentary a shameful hit piece built on stolen footage that was never authorized for release. Netflix did not comply with the cease and desist. On December 2nd, 2025, Sean Combs' The Reckoning was released as scheduled. The streaming service issued a direct rebuttal to Combs' claims. The claims being made about Sean Combs, The Reckoning, are false, a Netflix spokesperson stated. The project has no ties to any past conversations between Sean Combs and Netflix. Netflix emphasized that the footage of Combs leading up to his indictment and arrest was legally obtained. This is not a hit piece or an act of retribution. The company also clarified that while Curtis Jackson served as executive producer, he did not have creative control over the project, and that participants were not paid to appear. Director Alexandria Stapleton addressed the footage controversy directly. "It came to us, we obtained the footage legally and have the necessary rights. We moved heaven and earth to keep the filmmaker's identity confidential. One thing about Sean Combs is that he's always filming himself, and it's been an obsession throughout the decades." Stapleton added, "We also reached out to Sean Combs' legal team for an interview and comment multiple times, but did not hear back." On December 10th, 2025, a new voice entered the controversy. Michael Oberles, who described himself as Sean Combs' documentarian, released a statement to Rolling Stone. "For over 2 years, we have been working on a project profiling Sean Diddy Combs," Oberles stated. "The footage in question was not released by me or anyone authorized to handle Sean Combs' materials. It was by a third party who covered for me for 3 days while I was out of state." Oberles disputed earlier suggestions that the footage leak was related to a payment dispute. "This incident had nothing to do with any fee dispute or contract issue," he said. "The actions of the parties involved reflect the lack of integrity every storyteller should uphold. Taking footage intended for our project to advance a narrative that was not our own is both unethical and unacceptable." A former publicist of Combs had previously claimed that Combs never signed a contract with the videographer behind the footage, nor paid them. a claim that Oberle's statement appeared to contradict. The identity of the third-party freelancer who allegedly provided the footage to Netflix has not been publicly disclosed. After the documentary aired, Combs's mother, Janice Combs, released a statement disputing specific claims made in the series. "I am writing this statement to correct some of the lies presented in the Netflix show, Sean Combs, The Reckoning, released on December 2nd, 2025, she wrote. "These inaccuracies regarding my son Sean's upbringing and family life are intentionally done to mislead viewers and further harm our reputation." She specifically addressed claims in the documentary that portrayed her as abusive. "In the documentary, I am portrayed as an abusive parent. This is untrue. As I have stated previously, I was a single mother raising my son. I held 3 and even 4 jobs in an attempt to provide a comfortable upbringing and quality education for my child." Combs's legal team also released a statement. "We're not going to comment on individual claims being repeated in the documentary. Many of the people featured have long-standing personal grievances, financial motives, or credibility issues that have been documented for years. Several of these stories have already been addressed in court filings, and others were never raised in any legal forum because they're simply not true. The project was built around a one-sided narrative led by a publicly admitted adversary, and it repeats allegations without context, evidence, or verification." In the days following the documentary's release, 50 Cent gave several interviews explaining his involvement. In an exclusive interview with ABC News, he addressed the claim that the project was motivated by personal beef. "What they consider pre-existing beef for 20 years is me being uncomfortable with him suggesting that he takes me shopping," Jackson explained. "It's not personal." He told NBC News that he had worked on the documentary for over a year with director Stapleton. "I'm not doing this as some personal mission," he said. "I'm telling a story no one else is telling because I don't have the fear that others feel towards him." Director Stapleton emphasized that the documentary wasn't designed as a hit piece. "This isn't just about the story of Sean Combs or the story of Cassie," she stated. "Ultimately, this story is a mirror reflecting us as the public, and what we are saying when we put our celebrities on such a high pedestal." In a statement provided after Combs' September 2024 arrest, 50 Cent had framed his motivations differently. "We remain steadfast in our commitment to give a voice to the voiceless and to present authentic and nuanced perspectives. While the allegations are disturbing, we urge all to remember that Sean Combs' story is not the full story of hip-hop and its culture. We aim to ensure that individual actions do not overshadow the culture's broader contributions." Observers noted that 50 Cent had given the interview to ABC News, a station available in federal prisons. When a commenter pointed this out on social media, 50 Cent responded, "I thought about it. What's wrong with that?" Within 6 days of its release, Sean Combs' The Reckoning was viewed 21.8 million times, making it the second most watched Netflix title during the week of December 1 to 8, 2025, behind only Volume 1 of the 5th season of Stranger Things. Critics largely praised the documentary. On Rotten Tomatoes, 90% of critics' reviews were positive. The Guardian's Stuart Heritage rated the series 4 stars out of 5, writing, "Thankfully, the existence of the reckoning seems to suggest that the arch manipulator has finally been outmaneuvered." Heritage also noted limitations. Although there are certainly elements of this story that have not been told, Combs's infamous freak-off parties are presented as an afterthought, and none of their long line of celebrity attendees are mentioned. The series does offer substantial new information. Among the documentary's most discussed revelations were allegations from Kirk Burroughs, Bad Boy Entertainment's co-founder, who claimed that Combs was indirectly responsible for Biggie's death by forcing him to stay in Los Angeles when Biggie wanted to leave for Europe. Burroughs alleged that Combs ushered Biggie to his death by prioritizing partying over safety. The documentary also featured Aubrey O'Day, former member of Danity Kane, reading from an affidavit describing an alleged assault. "Does this mean I was raped?" O'Day asked in the documentary. "Is that what this means? I don't even know if I was raped, and I don't want to know." As of December 2025, several questions remain unanswered. The footage dispute has not been resolved in court. Combs' team maintains it was stolen. Netflix maintains it was legally obtained. The identity of the freelancer who allegedly provided it remains confidential. Combs has filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit against NBC Universal over a separate documentary, Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, that aired on Peacock. Whether similar legal action will be taken against Netflix remains to be seen. Combs is appealing his conviction. His attorneys argue that the sentence was inconsistent with the jury's verdict, which acquitted him of the most serious charges. The jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. Attorney Mark Agnifilo said, "There was no sex trafficking, there was no racketeering. Everything was consensual, everything was adult, which is why he was convicted only of the prostitution offense." More than 70 civil suits remain pending against Combs, alleging rape, assault and coercion from incidents spanning decades. And 50 Cent continues to post about Combs on social media, sharing memes and commentary to his millions of followers. The 20-year rivalry shows no signs of ending. What happened in December 2025 was the culmination of forces that had been building for 2 decades, a rivalry that began with accusations in a diss track, an industry that protected its most powerful figures, a legal system that finally acted, and a streaming platform willing to air the result. Whether Sean Combs' The Reckoning is journalism or vendetta or both depends on who you ask. Combs' team calls it a hit piece, built on stolen footage by a man with a personal grudge. 50 Cent calls it giving voice to the voiceless. Netflix calls it a legally obtained examination of a convicted offender. What is undeniable is this: 21.8 million people watched it. A cease-and-desist letter could not stop it, and the story of power, rivalry, accountability, and the long memories of those who wait for their moment is still being written. 50 Cent once rapped in 2006 that Combs knew who killed Biggie. In 2025, he produced a documentary that aired while Combs sat in federal prison. 20 years is a long time to wait. But in hip-hop, as in life, the final verse hasn't been written yet. If this story moved you, subscribe for more in-depth investigations into the stories that shape our culture. Drop a comment. What do you think about documentaries produced by people with personal connections to their subjects?